we've been getting a lot of letters lately and messages from folks saying, hey, how come you guys don't talk about coarse fish, for example, or fish, that are a little less on the radar for most sport anglers. So we thought, who the hell do we know that knows a thing or two about this? And there you are. So that's why you're here. His name is Joe Cermele.
I am a longtime champion of underdog fish, but man, I've done it all. I'm like, Gator Gar in Texas is a fish I've said a million times everybody should catch once before they die. I mean, to see 100+ pound fish come out of a tiny muddy river and go airborne is fantastic. The gar you guys have, I fly fished for them in Virginia, and see, that's me. I'll come all the way up there in October just to catch a big drum. And the bowfin, I mean, I'm head over heels for bowfin, and I will be the first to say, you get a big bowfin on the line, it will put the fight of a big largemouth of equal size to shame. I mean, they are gnarly fish, and they will fight you from hook set until they are in the net. Snakeheads are delicious. I mean, they are one of the best eating freshwater fish that I've ever had. I kid you guys not, and you're Canadian. I'll take a deep fried piece of snakehead over walleye. Oh.
This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio is brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species. Freedom Cruise Canada, rent the boat, own the memories. J&B Cycle & Marine, your home for all things power sports, boats, and equipment. And Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures.
What you looking at?
Well, hello, everybody. Perfect timing for you to take a drink while we celebrate episode. What number episode are we celebrating, Dean?
148.
148, I think. I don't like saying that because, things come up.
Yeah, they
Somebody
do.
cheats in a tournament.
It's 140 something.
Around 150.
That's right.
How's that?
Yeah.
Welcome to the program, Outdoor Journal Radio, the podcast. Peter Bowman, Angelo Viola, and the cast.
Come on now.
The team of dudes.
Nick and Dean.
Come on now.
All welcoming you to this exciting episode. A good friend of ours who hasn't been on for a little while now is going to be joining us a little later on. His name is Joe Cermele from New Jersey, former fishing editor at Field and Stream magazine, and who hasn't read that wonderful
I'll tell
product?
You, I read a lot of those in my day.
He authored Field and Stream fishing manuals.
Those I have not read.
I
have one in my bathroom.
By Joe?
Get the hell out of here.
No kidding.
That's awesome.
I should tell him that.
You should when he comes on.
Yeah.
He also
give him
hosted,
a phone call while you're having a poop and you're reading it and sort of thing.
That's
like
nice.
That. Hey, Joe, how you doing?
We can always count on you for bringing up the quality level of this program.
What else is he going to be in the bathroom for? Is he going to have it watch it when he's looking at it when he's showering? No. Pages will get wet.
Also, he is former host of Fish and Stream's Hook Shots. Meat Eaters does boat. I didn't even know that existed.
It's a good one. You should watch that. It's pretty
really. No, he doesn't do that anymore.
He did one season of it.
One season.
Yeah.
Does boat.
Yeah.
What's the premise of that one?
They take like an old tin boat that they buy off some guy, and they send it around the country, and each angler has to put like their little modification on it.
Wow.
And then at the end they have this like fully built up little tin boat, and then they auction it off.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea. Why didn't I think of that, Dean?
I don't know. Yeah.
I think it's wonderful.
I agree. I think so
and also Meat Eaters B-side fishing.
That was all about the coarse fish.
Which we're going to talk about today. I mean, the reason we had him on, we have him coming on. First of all, he's also a host of Cut&Retie podcast, which is current. It's on every week, I believe. Joe will fill us in on that. Last time he was here on episode 52, that was almost 100 episodes ago, in case you're counting.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. Like, the way I do that math is incredible.
I just can't believe we've done that many podcasts.
Yeah,
come on now.
On that episode, we talked about the striper bass that was heading northward along the eastern seaboard and into the Atlantic provinces in Canada, and he kind of shed some light on that whole thing. But if nothing else, a very interesting perspective on angling. he has. And that's why we brought him on, because we've been getting a lot of letters lately and messages from folks saying, hey, how come you guys don't talk about coarse fish, for example, or fish, that are a little less on the radar for most sport anglers. And quite honestly, I mean, we've done a lot of carp programs in the past.
Yep.
We've done some gar pike.
A little bit of gar, a little bit of sheephead.
A little bit of
not
sheephead.
Much, but not much.
Yeah, you did a sheephead show in Bay of Quinte.
Yeah,
a
Kevin
few
Labor's
years
night,
ago.
And it was it was absolutely incredible. And I said I'd do it again and again and again, and I haven't done it again.
Haven't done it since, but that's the whole
And it was
point.
some of the best fishing. Like, dude, 20-pound sheepies, vertical jigging, 20-plussers.
You guys, if I remember that episode, you guys had some snotty weather to deal with, though, right?
No, it wasn't bad. That it was cold.
It was cold.
It was cold, and you probably remember us going out from the docks, and we had our gear all on.
Yeah,
it was
like you were
freezing, but it was a cold front day. It was sunny but nasty in that sense.
Didn't look like a
it's
place
not
where I wanted
July.
to hang out.
It wasn't July with your shorts on for sure.
So anyways, we'll explore all of those possibilities with Joe Cermele when he comes on here in a few minutes. First, shop.fishandcanada.com. Last episode, I told you we
Bringing
had
out
some new product that was being unveiled shortly. And
What do you got, hats there?
Short of having the new products, what I wanted to do is show you some of the additional patterns that will be available probably as we speak. There's one there.
So that is the rainbow trout, for instance. Will it be only available on that colored hoodie right now, or is it going to be on different colors?
No, I think that it will be coming out on this, which is a light gray
Okay,
pattern.
so then we'll expand later if we...
Yeah,
okay,
they'll be
cool.
available all different colors, but I wanted to show the patterns because this might be some of the best stitch work I have ever seen on
this
a
is
hoodie.
incredible.
The colors are brilliant on that. The Chinook salmon is another one.
I like that. I like that background color.
My favorite of all of them has got to be the brook trout.
Well, I mean, you can't. You certainly can't knock that one. It's an iconic Canadian
artwork.
fish, right?
And a remake of the walleye on a different colored
The golden walleye.
So you remade the walleye fish, the fish itself, and the hoodie is like everything, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
we had a walleye one out before.
Yeah,
right?
but
Did we not?
we
What the
we
hell
got
is
some
that
feedback.
going on there?
Oh, that's a whole other ball game.
Oh my God!
Figured
Oh,
they'd
boy.
sneak in.
We are out,
those
buddy.
guys.
We're out of a job.
Yeah, a little more of the Doré version of the walleye.
I got you. Doré.
All of these
Wah,
will
wah.
be available, if not already available, by the time you watch this podcast.
Very nice. Nice work, Timmy and crew. That's awesome. Campus crew. Timmy and campus crew. Hey, that was
All
good play on
there.
words.
Right there, and you might even see these two
Look at those
gentlemen.
handsome devils. Look at them.
For those of you
Shot
who
that
might
yesterday.
not know,
I think Nick's shoulders are wider than Dean's, and I don't know if that's a reality or not.
He
Nick looks like he's
photoshopped him.
jacked.
He photoshopped him.
He did. He must be.
Yeah.
he photoshopped
Jack,
that.
look at him. He's
But he made me taller than him, which is nice.
well, no,
You
your
look, I
chin.
think my head is a little bit higher.
Dean and Nick, for everybody, a nice round of applause for them would be wonderful.
Woo!
I don't
As
have that
Bob
on
would
the
say,
board.
woo!
You don't have that button anymore, do you?
No, I got rid of it.
Yeah. We got to get you more buttons. Is there an add-on we can put on your set there to
Get another board going.
Oh, a double board. Dino would be like a keyboardist.
Good DJ.
Boom, doo-doo-doo-doo-ding, boom, boom.
listener feed? That's fishandcanada.com, by the way, or the store. You'll see all this wonderful stuff. The Christmas sale is on as we speak.
Really?
Some
Already?
really good bargoons
It's
happening.
beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
It is,
It's
unfortunately.
December right now.
It is. It is.
It comes so fast, boys. It's like November's gone. It was just gone. I don't
But
remember.
just think, if that's the case, and we are into, by the time this is up into December, that means that we're just a few months away from embarking on our incredible Fishing Canada journey to our 40th year of
Give me a
broadcast.
hell yeah!
That's where the hell, yeah.
Our 40th year of broadcast coming up in 26. But before that, the great series that we shot this past year, the 2025 broadcast season, is only a few weeks away. You don't want to miss that one, baby. Let me tell you right now.
Some good ones in there, I'll tell you.
Great stuff. Listener feedback, Mr. Bowman.
Listener feedback from Steve Mallory. via Facebook. Very nice. I like that. Every now and then they throw in a different, little source.
Have always loved your show, hoping for more shows in high-pressured locations. The Northern Lodge thing, I'm sure, pays the bills.
Well, you got that right, nice. Steve. That's
it doesn't hurt that we love shooting in those areas either, by the way. But it doesn't make us that much better in high-pressure lakes and systems. I disagree with you, by the way. I'll tell you why in a minute. Thanks again for the info and for your time. Tight lines. That was Steve Mallory via Facebook. Reason being I say that, because sometimes we just make assumptions that high-pressured fish are different than fish that don't get any pressure. And I'll tell you what the difference, why I think that that's a wrong assumption. And I've got so many case studies where this comes true. Fish that are in remote areas that don't get pressured are, in a lot of cases, more weary than fish who do. You might think that fish that are in urban areas, for example, will be different than the northern fish. The difference is the northern fish, when they hear a ting on a boat or a couple of guys talking too loud or yelling and screaming up on the surface, or a boat approaching, the silhouette of a boat approaching, are a lot more skittish than fish that are in high pressure areas because they're used to it. Quite frankly, they hear outboard motors going overhead all the time. They hear people clanging and banging. And there's a little more wiggle room in pressured areas, in my opinion, than those remote areas. Those fish are tough. The reason, now there's more of them, and there's less competition from other anglers for that fish, but the fish itself, it's a little more on its toes, I find. And
you know what? That's a good point. They are the more
just outboard
lakes,
motors, just outboard motors in general. You go to a lake like Rice Lake, for example.
The wakeboarders, the pleasure boaters, the pontoon boaters, all the pleasure boaters, aside from the anglers. Yeah, you're right. They're
used to it.
They hear it every day.
Outboard motors mean nothing to them.
Yeah.
But an outboard motor on even a place like Lac Sewell, that's a big, giant body of water with relatively low pressure, when they hear outboard motors, those fish are already a little bit weary about what's coming next. And what's coming next is this weird-looking something or other that's dropped in front of them that's not the real deal.
No.
And well, you know, and you say that, but that's why in those areas, sometimes nothing short of a live minnow will coax those fish into biting.
We've seen that for sure.
Whereas in the pressured areas, the more urban areas, artificial baits are usually the winning ticket. You don't have to get to using.
I'll give Steve a little tip too, a little nugget here that he can use to learn a little bit here, Steve and whoever else wants to learn. If you go to our website or a YouTube's page or whatever like that, and we have every show we have a hotspot. Okay, if you were to just take 5 of those hotspots, let's take 5 far away spots. You're thinking, oh my God, they're out in the middle of nowhere. Take those hotspots, throw them into your GPS, and not that you're going to go there, but take a look at your contours. Take a look at everything around. All of a sudden you're saying, oh, those guys are fishing that hump on the fast break on that hump on that side. That's cool. Go to your popular lakes and start looking for places like that. You know what I mean? So maybe you can't get to these lakes in Northwest Territories, but those hot spots, they tell a lot. Every one of those things, every one of those waypoints we put on there tells you a lot of information. Not only for there, you can look at that anywhere and everywhere else. So we do that all the time. When Ange and I look at a map, we're looking for these hotspot type of areas, and we're seeing them there. Okay, I remember that from that lake over there. So it's a little tip that people can.
Yeah, it's funny because sometimes we give you hotspots to remote areas that probably 99% of you will never go.
Only the lodge goers that go to that trip.
And you're right, because you might think, well, why are we wasting the time? Because of what Pete just said. You can take that information and translate that to your favorite fishing lake.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, fish are fish are fish are fish.
And they very much adhere to a lot of the same types of structures and living areas they do from lake to lake. So just keep that in mind. So
Before we get on to Joe Cermele, who, by the way, is going to talk to us about urban fishing areas, that he's in New Jersey, so it doesn't get any more urban than that. He spends a lot of time on the local waters.
Is Bobby Urich from New Jersey, too? Do you know?
Great question.
I thought he was.
Great question.
Anyway, sorry.
Where did he come from? And we haven't mentioned that name in 100 years.
Because of Jersey. I think he must be from Jersey because it hit me. Anyway.
Time for Conservation Corridor, brought to you by the good people at the Invasive Species Centre, who are on point.
Well,
there's never a day that they let.
This is a good show to bring this in because we're going to be talking about carp for sure, right? Joe will talk about carp, I think.
Well, not only carp, but I know that he spends a lot of time with a lot of coarse fish and fish like snakehead, which is an invasive species south of the border.
Right.
And probably a good time to just say that although south of the border invasive species are prevalent, not so much here, especially the one we want to mention, that is the grass carp that we keep talking about on this show. So they've taken a bit of a different approach down there, and that is that it's there and it ain't going anywhere. And so they're now learning how to work with it, deal with it, right? And they've made it into a sport fish as such. That they actually go chasing down,
or the ones that shoot them with the arrows. The silver carp, is it?
Silver carp,
one of the invasives.
That's another one.
That they're saying, well, you know what? There's millions of them here. Let's have some fun with it and beat them up at the same time. So.
But the one we're talking about has not set roots yet north of the border, and we're hoping that we can sort of nip it in the bud, as it were. However, there are definitely some here that have already been documented.
This is grass carp we're talking about, right?
Yeah. One of the 4 invasive Asian carps that we need to be worried about because they will change the landscape in our fishing for sure. This particular one, grass carp, as the name would kind of shed some light on, will consume a vegetation like nothing you could ever imagine.
Yeah, hoovered up the grass.
40% of its body weight every day.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's the part that's alarming about this.
That's an eating machine when you think about it.
For sure.
If we could imagine if we ate that much, 40% of your body weight every day.
I used to.
No, you didn't. You've never eaten that much. You don't do that in a week.
I look like I used to.
Boom, boom.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have that button. Oh, he's got that button.
He found it. Right. Dean found that one.
Anyways, like I mentioned, there's no current established populations here yet. However, what we can do as anglers who spend a lot of time on the water, be vigilant, know what you need to know about these fish.
Yes. Go to asiancarp.ca and get as much info as you can on the look of them, on the look of these fish. Because I'll tell you what, when you finally do see one, whenever we see a new species of fish, Ange and I is like, what was that? You know what I mean? So, you find out and then you say, hey, I know that's a grass carp. I am going to keep this fish. I'm going to report it to the asiancarp.ca people, to the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry, wherever and whoever, and let's give her.
Conservation Corridor brought to you by the Invasive Species Centre. Now in the news, Mr. Bowman.
Is there any more carp stuff or anything here? Are we staying
with news is all about ice fishing. New to ice fishing.
We're doing a transition here.
We're in a transition, yes.
We're transitioning.
We're transitioning
topics. It's December, so...
So there's no easy way to transition other than
this was a hard transition, this one.
This was a hard from one to the other to back to the other, right? I got that. New ice fishing in Pennsylvania. I'm assuming that's Pennsylvania, right?
PA. Pennsylvania,
fish,
baby.
PA. I looked at that PA. See, I'm pretty good at that stuff.
You're
right?
excellent. You're excellent.
The Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission is offering, so notice how I kept talking so the Angelo couldn't give me shit or slag me or whatever. A virtual intro to ice fishing program. So there's 200 seats available. This is a good idea, I think, actually, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know what it entails, if it costs money. It
doesn't cost any money.
It doesn't cost any money right off the hop there, right? So I'm assuming is it an online thing deal? Yeah, do you know?
I think they actually used to offer it in person. I believe it might be online now, though. It's virtual now.
Yeah, fishing boat staff, along with fishing skills instructor Don Kelly, owner of Tackle Shack in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, who will lead the class covering ice safety, where to find fish in the winter, an introduction to habitat maps. We were just talking about the maps. Basic ice fishing gear needed, next level ice fishing gear, and how to use your ice fishing gear.
I think ice fishing is probably the best way to introduce new anglers to the sport.
Yeah,
you know,
pretty much
you don't
anybody
need a
can do it,
boat.
yeah.
You don't need anything. You can pretty much do it everywhere. There isn't an urban center that doesn't have ice fishing in close proximity.
The only problem you'll have is parking your vehicle to access the waters that you're probably the water's public, but you might have to watch it. But that's the only issue you'd have, and then that can easily get by with that, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's a good idea.
You know, in the past, it's been very difficult. Even as basic as ice fishing is, there's still some do's and don'ts, and there's some tips and techniques that will improve your experience.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's a great idea, whether you do it in person or virtual, to kind of assimilate yourself into that culture, the ice fishing culture. And what better way to do it than a classroom, especially online. You don't have to go driving around. And
fantastic. Great idea. Great idea.
So there you go. That's in the news, and it's on fishingcanada.com as we speak.
Come on now.
Fan question.
Please.
Are we at that? Brought to you by fishfindermounts.com. One of our new favorite companies, buddy.
Ooh, nothing better.
Great guys to work with. They listen and they produce fantastic items to use for us to use in our electronics. So
here is the question. It was submitted by everybody.
We've been getting this question
love it.
Been coming in now for we probably get 3 a day on this topic.
Everybody. So we're just calling it everybody. We don't want
there are too many names to put in this.
Dean, I like the way you did that. I like the way you did that.
The Countess.
The
Countess.
Speaking of everybody,
said to me the other day, because she listens to these podcasts.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah, everyone that goes up, she listens.
It's a bunch of bullshit.
It is not a bunch of bullshit. You tell her that. You tell her
her
that when she brings you your paycheck this week.
Wow.
Anyways, she said to me,
like it? Does she like it?
Some. There's been a few. I didn't say it was good. I didn't say it was good that she.
Oh
listens.
God. Okay.
Anyways,
So here comes the doom and
but she
gloom.
made an interesting observation. She said, you guys. Okay, first of all, let me sort of bring it back a little bit so you better understand why she's making this comment.
Okay.
So the Countess is on her phone. I don't know. I'm going to say 3 hours a day.
Who's she talking to that long?
No. Watching.
Oh.
About 3 hours a
cell
day.
phone. Okay.
And what she is into now, because she goes through these little spurts, right? But what she's into now is it's a craze going on right now. People will go down to Vegas, for example, and they will set up a camera behind them as they play slot machines.
Right. I've heard her talk about this.
And it's a whole industry.
Yeah, I've heard.
These guys have got like hundreds of thousands of viewers, and the Countess probably
is part of that.
is part of the whole. Yeah, she watches everybody, but one in particular, it's a couple of guys or 3 guys. And what they do, they read a fan question of the week.
Oh.
Actually, they have a fan question.
Off, or
they have a fan question of the day because these guys put up a new video every day.
So they stole that from us.
Wow, I didn't want to
gonna
say anything to her because, she...
They listen to our podcast.
Well,
that's so cool.
I don't know.
Hi, guys. Thank you. Put a couple bucks on it for us, would you?
His name is Vegas Matt, in case you want to
Hey,
check
Matt.
him out. So anyways, but what they do, when they are in trouble... When they've made this part of their shtick, right? When they're starting to go into a tailspin, and as they call it,
start losing money, right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, they're getting. They have a saying for that. Anyways, when they're in trouble and start losing money, they say, we need a fan question of the day. So one of them goes through and he pulls a fan question out, and they do the fan question, and what they do is they give that fan question person that submitted that fan question, they give them something for it. So they'll give them a T-shirt, or they'll give them a coupon to go on their site to buy some of the swag, or there's all kinds of things that they give to incentivize people to send in letters. Why? Because they use them every day. They need a ton of this stuff. And inadvertently, every time they pull out one of these, they win. So they're on a record right now.
Wow.
So she said, why don't you guys kind of do the same thing? Instead of just, reading it out and having fun with it, why don't you give them something?
We give them entries to contests.
Everybody, not just the people who enter or who submit a question.
Right.
Right. What she's saying is that person, like, it wouldn't work today because you just said everybody.
Right.
Right. But we normally have a person that actually sent that in.
Hey, see, here's what you do now. You go to Tangay. We started it, and we got to give everybody a hoodie now. Monique, what do you think of that
she'd love
idea?
that.
Out of business.
She'd buy into that. Big time. No, but like, for example, maybe we could give them a coupon to go online and get their own swag of preference.
Yeah. It would encourage better questions, probably.
Better quality, maybe, yeah, because they know that we're only going to pick the cream of the cream. They put a little more thought into that particular question.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, they call it getting wrecked.
Getting wrecked.
Yeah, we're getting wrecked now. We're getting, they're down 20 grand or something. We're getting wrecked.
Well,
we're getting wrecked. Pull out a question of the day.
I used to say that in Napa Neal every Friday night.
Your wrecked is different.
And we got wrecked.
Anyways, maybe it's something that you gentlemen would like to give it some thought. Nick, Dean, whoever.
Well, if you got the
do that.
Countess's blessing,
Well, we
gentlemen,
do. We do.
If you have
We
that,
do.
then that means she's
do.
carte blanche.
I think we should personally, if you want my opinion, but don't let me influence you at all. I would give them like a 20% off coupon or something. I don't know. I'm
The
just saying.
store manager is listening to this. So.
And
Well,
the
I
store
know he
manager's
is, I
liking
know.
it.
I
He
know
likes
he
this. His mind is going right now and working very, very much overtime.
That's what I would do for our lovely audience. So to motivate
Very
them
kind.
to send in some real thought-provoking questions, give them something.
It's got to be Christmas.
Reward.
Close to Christmas, isn't it? Because you're
It's
giving away
perfect.
you and
Yeah.
Tang. That's good.
perfect.
That's awesome.
Anyways, everybody sent via email wants to know, what is a safe amount of ice thickness for fishing, snowmobiling, driving, etc.?
That's a pretty good question.
First of
You know
all,
what I
we
mean?
have a wonderful piece on fishingcanada.com that deals with this, right, Dave?
Yep. And some pictures from that are behind you guys if you're watching on YouTube.
There we go. There you
but
go.
We have a video on there of how to get out of the ice. We have, kind of ways to identify clear ice versus ice that might not be safe, because all the charts we have on there are all for clear ice,
Right.
which we don't get a lot of anymore.
That's the
these days.
safest ice, I'm assuming.
yeah, the
right?
safest
That's the
ice
nice
by a
ice.
mile.
That,
Now we're getting dark ice, right?
We
What
get
they call
white.
that?
Like
yeah,
that,
like it has
shit right there.
Yeah,
That's the,
yeah.
the dark's the,
the
good
rotten
stuff.
stuff.
That's funny. I bet ice. I'm looking at this and I wrote down. I said 3 to 4 inches for walking, and they have 4 inches for ice fishing and skating. 3
You're
you
a
can do it on
genius.
good stuff. And I wrote 8 inches for my truck, because I wouldn't take my truck on anything less than 8 inches.
Yeah.
Cars are
You're a
small.
genius. Eh? How do you know this stuff? Like, how is it possible that one human being, one brain, has so much valuable information stored in it?
The thickness of ice. That's what my teachers all said. Boy, you're gonna make her big if you know the thickness of ice.
Actually,
And
Peter
then I
wanted
went
to
and
be
got
a,
wrecked. And then I went and got wrecked every weekend.
Peter wanted to be an astronaut. I spoke to one of his buddies that went to school with him for a long time. He says, yeah, he used to take space in school, take up space. I assumed you wanted to be an astronaut.
I thought you were going to say the only thing that held me back was grade 8.
Well, there's that too. We won't talk about that. It may be a little
That
embarrassing.
was a bit tough on me.
4 years,
For the
huh?
third time. Yeah.
Good God.
4 years.
Unbelievable.
I got her done.
Anyways, to answer your question, everybody that wrote in, this is the Bible.
It's a good chart. That's a good chart. That's a
Right.
good one.
And it's available on fishingcanada.com. How do they find it, Dean? How do they?
I'm going to push it. When this podcast is out, it'll be on the homepage.
Oh,
so I'm going to push it
perfect.
back up.
And take a look at those 2 pictures too, folks, because is this going to be on the website? Is that
Yeah.
all on the
Yeah,
website?
it's all on the
Because that
website.
black ice versus that white ice, you're thinking that white ice is all good and good and good. There's a lot of air in there. Not that good, so.
Yeah, I wanted to just clarify that 8 inches that Pete was talking about. That would be for a small vehicle, not.
I would
full
never
size.
drive my car on 8 inches.
Not a chance.
No?
I wouldn't know.
Not a chance.
Good ice is good black ice?
Not a chance. Not a chance. I definitely wouldn't. I just don't like the whole idea of putting a vehicle that weighs between 3,000 and 5,000 pounds on anything other than asphalt and dirt.
True. That's a
right?
good point.
That's me.
That's a good
Right.
point. I haven't driven a vehicle on ice when we were kids, we used to do it. My dad used to do it, but not
you
very
ins-
often even.
Does insurance cover it if you go in?
They have to fight for that one. I believe, wasn't there Wasn't there something? There's an article on that. It was the same idea as
I would say no.
and-
Right off the bat, I
Right.
would say no.
Yeah, because you're doing something they're not anticipating your car doing,
Right.
right? Like I wouldn't think they'd cover that.
No, just like I
No,
don't
I
think
can't
they
see
would
they
cover if you go off-roading with your vehicle and jump over a cliff and
true.
Yeah.
blow the car up or vehicle up. I don't think they're
No, they
obligated.
They won't cover a boat in December in open water.
There
So
you
why
go.
would they cover a car on the ice?
So that's something else to think about before you do venture out onto frozen lakes with your vehicle this winter. You might want to check with your insurance company just in case. I love it when a new ad just pops up on the desk, by the way.
Like it's almost like ad-libbing for us, isn't it? Literally.
The next segment, of course, with our special guest, George Cermele, is brought to you by Sale, the outdoor stores, and they just handed us an ad that I have to read, and it's a great one because it gets me in the mood for Christmas.
I can
as well.
help you on it, buddy. I got one
Would
here
you
too.
mind?
So, yeah.
Let's start off by asking the folks, if you've got loved ones that love to go fishing every weekend, or maybe a hunter in your group, in your family that needs the perfect Christmas gift, well, look no further than Sale.
Do you have a fisher in your family that wants to go every weekend?
No.
No, I don't either.
No,
But that's
unfortunately
okay.
not. Well,
But they have
fortunately.
one. This dude right here and that dude right there.
But if you do, this is a perfect time of year to go visit Sale, the outdoor store. And why is that, Peter?
Because they have from fishing rods and reels to sonars and fishing clothing, and from clothing to boots and hunting cameras. Say goodbye to your guesswork and get ready to make your loved one very happy. Loved ones, I'm going to say
You
ones,
could
even
do
though
that.
there's one. But
you could do that.
yeah,
You
hell
read
yeah.
pretty good, kid.
Well,
for Napanee High School dropout, that's not bad.
You know what, buddy? I was there about a day a week, so that was all I needed, really.
That's Sale, the outdoor store, SAIL. If you don't have one in your neighborhood, and you probably don't, they don't have that many stores out there. They're so damn big, they can't put them all over the place. Simply go to sale.ca. That's sale.ca.
Do you want us to give that whole thing, Dino? I can say that if you want.
Sure.
Sale.ca/en/gift-ideas.
Oh, so they
How's
actually
that?
have ideas there that you can.
You can gift ideas. Go to that
Whoa.
page in there, and you're happening.
All right.
You'd be a rock star.
Now it's time for our special guest. He hasn't
Speaking of
been-
rock stars,
Exactly.
Eh?
Hasn't been with us for a little while. Don't know why, because last time we spoke, if I recall, we promised each other that we would do more of this, and we were even going to see if we could get him up to Canada
do some
to do a
fishing,
Fishing
whatever.
Canada show.
He's been very busy. He's been
I
active
know,
on
I know.
socials, on Instagram, etc. He's got his podcast, of course.
He is the former editor of at Field and Stream. You may know him as the author of the Field and Stream fishing manuals, and a former host of Field and Stream's Hook Shots, which was a great production, by the way. Meat Eaters, you've seen him there. He is now a host of the Cut&Retie podcast. I love that name. And a new podcast, Outdoor Life's Quick Strike podcast.
Oh,
Wow,
nice.
This guy does more than we do.
Nice.
Welcome to Joe. Joe again. Welcome to the show.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Doing great.
Good
We're
to
doing
see you.
good, buddy. No wonder you don't videotape. You're so
Holy
busy with
smokes.
that YouTubing would be just put you over the top, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be a lot of irons in the fire, and there's already a lot of those. But I got to congratulate you guys. Last time I was here, you did not have your studio set up. You're doing the video thing now.
Right.
So as I'm listening to you guys talk, I'm going, oh, that's what it looks like when you do this professionally. You guys
Well, I
are
don't know.
professionals. I'm still doing it all janky, guys.
I don't know about that. Hey, Joe, we brought you back because there's a bunch of things we want to talk to you about. But one thing that prompted it, and you know, we're like you. You get so damn busy, and you just things slip through the cracks.
Sure.
But something came up recently for whatever reason. We've been getting a lot of emails and messages from our listeners and viewers asking us, of all things, and I don't know where it came from. They're asking more and more questions about fishing for coarse fish, and why don't we do more coarse? Although we've done carp quite a bit on the show.
Quite a bit, but
Yeah.
not a lot.
No,
you know, well, I
no.
mean, let's be honest. The Fishing Canada television show is pretty much bass, walleye, pike, a little bit of muskie. We stick it, you know. So yeah, And then
Stripers. A lot of stripers.
But they'd be coarse. They're not a coarse
No,
fish, though. Really,
no.
they're kind of a
So,
bass, so.
we thought, who the hell do we know that knows a thing or two about this? And there you are. So that's why you're here.
I am a longtime champion of underdog fish. Yeah,
Yeah.
so good choice there. But I actually have some theories on why you're getting so many emails about that.
Why?
Because I've sort of noticed the same thing. I mean, it doesn't hurt that I've spent a lot of time with video series and even on the podcast. I mean, I have a lot of friends across the U.S. that is their thing. Suckers, Bowfin, Gar, and I love all that stuff. In fact, just this year, I made a Cut&Retie Bowfin sticker that has sold out 3 times. So, I mean, it's like mind-blowing. Like, you know.
That's awesome.
But what I think a lot of it has to do with is I feel like there's been sort of a renewed interest in native fish. Like you guys brought up carp, and carp certainly qualify. They are a rough fish, but really they're introduced. They're not supposed to be here. If you want to be technical about that, that's an introduced species. And I think more people are just coming around to the idea of playing around with and sort of, cherishing, I guess, a little bit, if you will, like native species like gator, gar, and bowfin that have been around. And I think it's a good thing. People are seeing the fun and benefits in these different fish that 10, 20 years ago, nobody really cared about, including me. You know, like this is relatively a new passion for me.
I think one of the issues, not issues, one of the reasons why people should maybe look into this a little more, first of all, they're readily available. Some of them, and you'll probably be able to give us a little more information on this, some of them are probably the best fighting or sporting fish that God has ever created, and yet virtually untouched.
And some of them are very delicious, from what I've heard.
Well,
I don't
we're going to
know
find that out too.
So
you and I don't eat a whole lot of these things.
Right.
We need to change it up a little bit.
Right, yeah, but give it a try. Or anybody, right? Anne's just right. Like for the limited amount of bowfin dogfish, we call them up here, that we've caught, they are insane. They are so much fun. They're aggressive. They're insane. They're strong fighters. That's just one of those species, right?
And you mentioned the gar. Like we've got long-nosed gar up here. We don't have gator gars, but gars. What an incredible sport fish that is, and yet it's really not looked upon as something you want to get your gear together with your buddies and go out chasing. Right. Yeah,
and I mean that's just certainly social media and YouTube has I think that's put these opportunities in front of more people. So that's certainly helping. But man, I've done it all. And like gator gar in Texas is a fish I've said a million times everybody should catch once before they die. I mean, to see 100+ pound fish come out of a tiny muddy river and go airborne is fantastic. The gar you guys have, I've not chased them up your way, but I've fly fished for them in Virginia. That's extremely challenging. Oh my God! It's it's not an easy thing to do. And the bowfin, I mean, I'm head over heels for bowfin, and I will be the first to say, you get a big bowfin on the line, it will put the fight of a big largemouth of equal size to shame. I mean, they are gnarly fish, and they will fight you from hook set until they are in the net. And
they break your shit too. They break. If you catch one on a spinner bait, it's gone. Throw it in the garbage.
They are extremely tough fish, but that's kind of one of the things that I love about them. They can be as complicated or as simple as you want them to be. Right. So. I do both. I've fly fished for them. I've traveled just to fly fish for bowfin, actually closer to you guys, Lake Champlain.
Right.
But if you just want to fight that fight, man, you put a chunk of shrimp or a hot dog out there. Well, that's the easy way, So you could sort of do it however you want to do it.
Joe, how about accessibility? Are we talking about a fish that's maybe a little difficult to access? Or are we talking a fish that's living for the most part?
You're talking bowfin right now?
I'm talking any coarse fish, anything that's sort of off the radar for sport anglers. Is it because they're not accessible, or are they just there and we ignore them? We don't even know they're there maybe.
I think it's a little bit of both, depending on what we're talking about. So, I don't want to get off too far on suckers, but I have a bunch of friends in the Midwest down here who that's like their first choice. They go sucker fishing, and I've gone out there and I've filmed videos for Meat Eater on this. Red horse, some of these things get pretty big, and they make the argument that there are suckers everywhere. Right. Every river, all different kinds. Some of them can get into the teens in pounds. Some of these giant river red horse, and they say we get to fish these streams and rivers that don't have much else in them. They're not great smallmouth. They're not great trout. And you have these beautiful places that are unpressured. There's nobody else there for miles, and we're catching these giant fish. So suckers would be one that I would say is super overlooked and extremely accessible. There's not many people who don't have some kind of suckers down the street, and they're hard to catch. People think that they just will vacuum up anything. No, there's strategy involved in the rigs and everything to catch these fish. Now, the bowfin is interesting. I'll tell you a very quick story. If it wasn't for invasive snakeheads, I would not be as torn up with bowfin. Bowfin, I think historically lived in a lot more places. They were a lot more accessible. And for a lot of reasons, habitat loss, and then just frankly, in certain places, people catch a bowfin, they throw it on the bank. They have the attitude that fish is out there killing my largemouth and killing my crappie. It's a very common thing to see, just dead bowfin thrown up. So where I live specifically, I can find you bowfin, but they're going to be in pockets. In other words, they're not flush throughout the system. They have what they need in this little pocket and this little area. And I think that's kind of typical that you sort of find like strongholds of bowfin. I live on the Delaware River, and they're all tributaries of the Delaware River. So on paper, they live in the main river. I've never seen one in the main river or caught one in the main river. You have to sort of seek out these little backwaters and things. But what I love about Snakehead, why I was frankly kind of excited that they showed up, was because it gave me a reason to go fish these areas that my whole life I've never fished before. Why am I going to go muck around in a swamp that's inches deep and get covered in leeches and briars and all this stuff? And now there's snakeheads in that habitat, and the byproduct of going there was going, oh, holy shit, that's a bowfin. So I had bowfin living right under my nose my entire life, very close to home. Yeah. And it took an invasive species to put me where they live. My dad and I weren't fishing these places. There's not much else there. So it took an invasive to open my eyes to this dinosaur. Really interesting.
Is that are those areas void of largemouth? Let's say, is usually they're too shallow, too swampy, too ugly, or
I wouldn't say they're void of largemouth, but they're not quite as attractive to the big ones. You'd be hard pressed in a lot of them to find a 4 or 5 pounder. Maybe there's better largemouth water connected nearby, but in a lot of the areas where you're finding the bowfin and the snakehead, there'll be some carp mucking around, there'll be bullheads, little bass, but most of these places for like a bobber and a shiner angler or a worm dunker, they're not that appealing. It's swampy, muddy, shallow water.
Right, right.
And that is a coarse fish, right? That would be considered a coarse fish, the bowfin. Would that be
I believe so, yeah.
Is there a definition, by the way? What is a coarse fish?
Well, so coarse fish and if you guys ever want to take a deeper dive on this, I have a terrific guest for you, but I'll do my best here. Yeah. So coarse fish and rough fish, they're also called rough fish down here, kind of similar. And a buddy of mine, Tyler Winter, he started this whole native fish organization in Minnesota. And one of the things that they were fighting very hard to do was get species like the Bigmouth Buffalo sucker delisted as a rough fish in state game regulations, because as a rough fish, you're wide open to shoot them with arrows and things. And people, they look like a carp, so people naturally lump them in with carp, but they're not. They're this native fish that can live an incredibly long time. These fish can be 50, 60 years old. Wow. So certain circles, from a conservation standpoint, are trying very hard to sort of change the rules on what is a coarse fish, what is a rough fish. It's not fair to call a bowfin a rough fish. They're native. They were here before everything else we love, yet they have pretty much no protection anywhere, So that fight is definitely coming around. Yeah.
Is that the buffalo, you go back to the buffalo, you said a buffalo sucker. Is that the same as we think as a buffalo carp around here? Like they're not thicker. They get big here and they get giants in Texas. Is that the same fish?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, actually, I shouldn't. Again, I don't want to speak out of school. This is the Bigmouth Buffalo, and I'm not super familiar with their broad range.
Right.
I know in the Midwest and Minnesota, but I mean they can get huge. And to just glance at them, you'd say that's some carp species, but it's actually not.
That's
it's a
the
sucker
one.
species.
It's a sucker. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the one. We caught one
Niagara
time.
River.
We had a bunch of journalists here from the UK, carp world-class carp anglers. Mm-hmm. And we were kind of giving them the tour of our carp fishery up here, on the Niagara River, we were catching carp for them, and they were catching carp and filming them and all that stuff. And then this one guy caught this, we thought it was a big,
just an off-colored carp. It was a gray carp.
Yeah,
it looked like
a little
to us.
more on the gray side, but this magnificent carp that we thought was a common carp.
Yeah.
And they're like all like super jonesed up about it. They were all excited. We were thinking, well, okay, it's a nice carp, but I mean, let's be honest. And that's when we discovered this thing called
Bigmouth
the
Buffalo.
Bigmouth Buffalo.
Yeah.
We never knew it even existed.
That would put them in Lake Ontario, and I can't say that I've heard of them living there, but I can't say they don't either. Like I said, I'm not super familiar. I'm actually headed up that way in a couple weeks. Very
good
excited.
for you. Whereabouts?
I love
Where you going?
to Lewiston in New York to fish the Niagara
Nice.
in early December. So praying for the weather and the wind to cooperate and all that stuff. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're in there. I'm just not the expert on the range. But
So they're not a carp, is what you're saying. They're
Bigmouth
a
Buffalo
sucker.
are not a carp. They're a sucker.
And for people listening, they look just like Ann said. We thought it was a carp, but we thought it was a carp species. After they called it a bigmouth buffalo, we still thought buffalo carp is what we thought.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not a sucker. So
For a couple of
because
years.
they're shaped, the suckers that we know are long and skinny. Like in most people, the common sucker, the white sucker, whatever you want to call them. Carp are thick, and these buffalo fish, they get thick, but they do have a flattened out belly compared to the regular common carp, right? So they have a bit of different shape to them. It's just the look is so similar. The scale pattern is similar. It's the colors and a little bit of shape difference. So
You make
that's
a good point. Now, let's I don't want to dwell on this, but you just opened my mind up to something. So that is a native fish. That's always been here.
Yes.
Right. Is the angling technique to catch it totally different than carp fishing? And I ask that for a reason, because that's probably why we don't see them, because nobody even knows they exist. And if it's a different technique that you're using, or even bait for that matter, then obviously that's why we're not catching them. But maybe you can open that door for us, because that would be a great sport fish.
Yeah, and again, full transparency, I have not caught them, and I personally have not really spent any time targeting them, but I have some buddies that have, and if you watch those fish, so they have sort of a cult following in the fly world in the Midwest, and one of the best ways to get them is when like seed pods and bugs and things get blown into back eddies on like the Mississippi River and stuff like that. You'll see them come up and they'll surface feed. And I've had some buddies go try it, and they hook 5. And then I've had other buddies go that they'll be coming down the line and eating this seed and this bug, and get right to your fly and duck under it and come up on the other side and keep going. They're not dumb fish. Another friend of mine, Tyler Winter, who I just mentioned, he does it with a giant cane pole and shoots his worms full of air so they float the right way. They don't just suck corn off the bottom like a common carp.
That's why we're not catching them. That's exactly why. That's a whole new fish for me, man. That's exciting.
That would be fun because they're strong. They're just strong as any other carp or anything like that. They're big and strong. They got that big broad tail. They're a fighter too. So
We should put that on our list to do next year.
we should try and find buffalo fish.
By the way, we're heading into our 40th year of broadcast, if you can believe it. The
Congrats, guys. Yeah.
The 2026 broadcast season will be our 40th year on air. So next year, meaning 25, we'll be embarking on our field work for the 40th anniversary. We may add that
so
fish.
we have to catch a 40-pounder or something. Well, we'll either catch a 40-pounder, and if we don't, we'll drink a 40-pounder.
There's a combination either or.
There you go.
No better way to celebrate that milestone than just being frustrated by giant suckers for a few days. It's not an easy thing.
No
man.
kidding.
You mentioned snakehead. I'm kind of curious about that one too. Of course, it's an invasive species.
Yes.
Up here, it's taboo. I don't.
Do we have them?
I don't believe they're here yet, and I say yet only because
Give it time. They're coming.
Exactly.
Give it time.
But that's a crazy fish, is it not?
Yeah, and I've taken my lumps over the years, and what I've never said was that they should be here, because they should not. They're an invasive species. They should not. But, you know, without giving the whole history of the fish, I will say that after so many years, science and everybody else figures out that you can put arrows through as many as you want. You can put as many kill mandates out there as you want. They're here. They're rooted. They're expanding. They're not going away. So I just took the approach of like, well, rather than, you know, complain on the internet about them, you know, go try to catch one. I mean, they are predominantly a topwater eater, right? I mean, at least that's the fun stuff. They're frog eaters. They, like I said, they give you a reason to go explore different kinds of water and pieces of water that you may have never messed with before. They are incredibly strong, but similar to like a muskie, right? I've always thought that it's not that you don't fish for muskie for the fight. You fish them for the first hit. Because muskie guys, right, once you connect them, you're just trying to get him in the net as fast as possible. You're not letting him.
So true.
It's not
That
fun.
is so
It's not fun
true.
at that point. Yeah.
Like it's game on, get it in.
Angela, I'm not going to say it's not fun, right? Because muskies are awesome, but I just always kind of got to chuckle at that. You work so hard to stick this fish, and it's just like, I need this done in 5 seconds. Very similar with snakeheads. When the hit is amazing, and when you stick them, they go ballistic. Yeah. But then it's just because those hooks come out of that hard mouth so easily, you're just muscling them to the net. But yeah, I can honestly tell you guys, like in the summertime and the dog days here, that is what I'm doing locally 95% of the time. Like I am just torn up with snakeheads, and they are, in fact, you know, expanding to your. You say you don't have them there yet. I remember a dozen years ago. Well, they won't get any further north than this because they can't take the cold. They can.
Yeah,
and they've proven that they have. They're an extremely resilient fish.
You're from New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Which is not very far south there. Your winters are your lake's ice over, et cetera, right? I'm assuming.
I haven't seen ice on skim ice maybe for a week or so.
Okay.
There hasn't been ice where I live that you could walk on in probably 10 years. It is becoming the Carolinas here, boys. Like our winters are just getting less and less wintry, you know?
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we're not far behind. I mean, we still get obviously ice, but not that far.
Now, if you want a recommendation for somewhere to go though that's closer to you guys, one of the coolest things I ever did was fish Bowfin on Lake Champlain, which has an incredible population and they are huge. And a buddy of mine, Drew Price, specializes in fly fishing for them there, sight fishing up on in the shallow water there.
Wow.
Thrilling. And he actually has a nice little guide service catering to people who want the underdogs. He does carp, gar, bowfin, freshwater drum, and a lot of it on fly. So even that, you see that business upticking just a little bit, people willing to go on vacation and travel to catch bowfin.
That's cool.
I love the whole underdog concept. Because
Well, I'll tell you.
when you call them, you know, coarse fish or, you know, the connotation there is that it's a garbage fish. But the underdog, I think it's brilliant.
Of every species Joe has mentioned to the people listening, we've caught them all. And I would say suckers might be the mellowest, and they're still a strong fighter. The rest of them are absolutely nuts when it comes to the fight, no matter what.
Yeah.
Like a carp might not jump, but I'm telling you what, he's going to pull like you've never had your line pulled before in your life. And these bowfin and gar, those are just ridiculous. They're so much fun.
How about drum?
Drum, they're like you put a 6-pound drum against a 6-pound smallmouth, and that smallmouth is going to get pulled his ass all over the place because that drum's going to beat him.
It's true.
You know what I mean?
I've caught some drum, just touching the teens in the Niagara River, and they are incredible. And then, ironically, I didn't get one this summer, but 2 summers ago, I'm out on the river here in August, fishing a jerkbait. Nothing's happening. I just kind of have it paused sitting out there and get slammed, and I catch a freshwater drum here. And nobody seems to be able to tell us where they came from because we're on the wrong side of the Appalachians for that to be part of their natural range.
Yeah.
Which is a bit scary because, okay, neat, that's a freshwater drum where nobody's ever caught one before, but why? Why are they here?
But as I say all the time, we're constantly, it seems over the last decade, certainly the last 5 years more so than ever, we're hearing about, we've got a new invasive species. You know, largemouth was caught in New Brunswick, and they've got smallmouth in Nova Scotia, and all that, and they all just make the assumption that somehow somebody just put them there. They just appeared. Yeah. When in fact, in most cases, and that drum you just alluded to, in most cases, it's because nobody's ever targeted them before, and you don't catch them in the traditional methods that we're used to fishing in those waters. And then all of a sudden, somebody, by accident, gets a largemouth in New Brunswick, and the whole world is falling in, right? Because, oh my God, how did they get here? Well, they've probably been there forever, or at least for a lot longer than we think they have.
Yeah, well, we see that a lot with the snakeheads. Every time they crop up somewhere new, everybody cries bucket biology, right? And no doubt, bucket biology is how they got here. That's a known. That's how it all started. But, we vilify those fish. And if you really step back and think about it, like what a miracle of science. Like you want to talk about a resilient fish. All that fish is trying to do is survive, right? And it is adapting and it is moving, and it pops up here and they go, well, no way they got from here to there by swimming through here. But that's all they're trying to do is survive, and they are incredible survivors,
Hey, before we go on, I want to go back to Sheephead, to drum, freshwater drum. If you're interested, we got a pattern for you, an October pattern. We'll get you a 20-pounder for sure, if not bigger.
Hey,
so,
let's do that.
Next year.
I am overdue. I want to come up and fish with you guys, and see, that's me. I'll come all the way up there in October just to catch a big drum.
I'll tell you what, we got
it's another underdog. Man. Let's do it.
Okay, I love it.
People listening are saying, "You guys out of your mind."
He's coming up from Jersey to catch a sheephead.
But I am out of my mind. I have no problem. If I can drive 7 hours for a bowfin, I'll go even further for a drum.
Right
all
on.
good.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
So one of the other things about the underdog fish and why they maybe are underutilized, I think, is the fact that most of our sport fish at some point in their lives were sitting on a dining room table ready to feed the family, right? So there's the edibility factor, and I think there's an automatic assumption that coarse fish, rough fish, that's why we've got to rename them underdog, are not edible. But you've sampled some of these fish.
I have, yeah. Although, sadly, the ones that we're talking about the most here, I have not. So, like, I know in the South, like gar balls, deep for that's a big thing. I've not had them yet. I'd love to try them, but I haven't had them. Snakeheads are delicious. I mean, they are one of the best eating freshwater fish that I've ever had. I kid you guys not, and you're Canadian. I'll take a deep fried piece of snakehead over walleye because it eats more like a saltwater fish, much firmer, very different thing. Now,
how about bowfin? So
bowfin are actually weird, and if you sort of talk to chefs and people on the culinary side, you get mixed things. So one of the known things about bowfin is that as soon as they're dead, they get extremely mushy, which is ironic because you catch these things that are just like a mass of rock hard muscle.
Yeah.
So if you watch the guys in the South, Louisiana and stuff, they call them shoe pick down there, and that crowd I think eats more of them than anybody else. The trick is you have to keep that sucker alive until you got the oil hot. And then I've heard if you take care of it properly and are quick on it, it's very much like catfish, just as good as anything else. I've not had it, but if you watch on YouTube, you'll see a lot of guys trying, like doing their catch and cook, like, well, I've never eaten one of these before, let's give it a shot. They can be very tough to clean, they get mushy very fast, and a lot of people are unimpressed. But the Southern boys will tell you, if you do it right, and you keep that thing alive in a cooler till it's like time to hit the grease, they can be very good. But that's one I've not eaten yet. I've eaten invasive silver carp, which was very good, but not bowfin, not yet.
I was told, and you know the story, years ago, somebody approached me from one of our indigenous communities in the area, and we started talking about consumption of various species. And this guy told me at the time that bowfin, if done properly, to the comment you just made, he compares them to scallop, eating scallops. Maybe the mushiness you're talking about has something to do with that. But he said the back end of a bowfin, they actually stamp out areas of that meaty part, and it's like scallops.
I've not heard that comparison before, but having not eaten it, I can't confirm or deny that. That could also be a cold water thing. One thing I am interested in, although it's very hard to find somebody dialed into it, and I wonder if you guys have even seen this. Like, have you ever caught bowfin through the ice? It does happen, but it's a very hard thing to pattern, apparently.
Yeah, we hear about it, and mostly incidental catches.
Not very often, though. Do you know?
I've never done it, but I'm always like the deep water stuff for burbot and stuff. Which,
Right.
Yeah.
And I think burbot's another one that's completely unregulated right now,
Totally.
which is
Oh yeah,
insane.
for sure.
But-
Speaking of scallop,
Yeah.
and firm meat, yeah. I've never, just not very often you hear a bowfin through the ice. Like the Bay of Quinty's got tons of bowfin in it.
I've heard of incidental catches, but
Yeah,
not
not
targeted for sure. But
Yeah.
then again, I don't know of anybody who targets bowfin. I mean, we always
Right.
catch them when we're largemouth bass fishing, and they're incidental catches, and they scare the hell out of you. You know,
Oh,
you're
yeah.
in 2 feet of water,
Oh.
covered with pads. You're-
Ruthless.
You're dunking for largemouth, and all of a sudden, this 8-pound monster is on your line, and you're freaking out. I mean, what?
And they're as brave as a muskie. They don't care about
Oh.
your boat. They do not
Oh.
care about your boat.
No, in fact, I'll give you this is, and I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it with my own eyes. My buddy Drew Price, the guide on Champlain that I mentioned, he has this method he developed called splash bang, and he'll go out in the middle of this giant weed field or along these reed edges, trying to sight cast for these fish. And he'll just start slapping the hell out of the water with his paddle and making all kinds of noise. And he is
awesome.
convinced that they are so smart and so inquisitive by comparison to other game fish that they will come investigate that.
Oh,
and I'm
my
like,
God.
no, they won't. But damn if they didn't.
no,
Wow,
you,
that is
you
cool.
witnessed it.
I witnessed it. Yeah.
That is so
Yep.
awesome.
I'm not saying it works every time, but like when the going gets tough or you're not seeing what you want to see, occasionally he will just start slapping the water and banging the water with oars and things. And he's like, these are some of the smartest, like they investigate.
That's
like,
cool.
Like I said, they're not afraid of the boat.
That. You can do it with
They're
your
hunters.
rod tip too.
They're
You
hunters,
can,
right?
you can. What's a good tactic for someone? What is your favorite way to catch bowfin? You got to have a method or something like that.
I mean, my preferred way is with a hollow body frog, but you have to have exactly the right scenario for that. And what I've found is that in the summertime here in super shallow water, they will actually eat dragonflies. So they'll cruise around and they'll wait for a dragonfly to land. And one of the easiest ways to get them on a frog is when they're doing that, you cast the frog out there and barely move it. And actually what I think is it's just the rubber skirt hanging just below the
Right.
surface. I actually think they often think it's a dragonfly and they'll smash it. And you got to be quick and you got to set hard and rip them out of the water. And it's a shower of duckweed in the air. And it's amazing. But if anybody listening has them close to home and has never messed with them before, they are incredible scent feeders, right? So it's you can make it very complex by trying to throw all these lures and flies, which is cool and very glorious. But I mean, a piece of shrimp, if it's legal, like here in where I live, you can use bluegill as bait. So I mean, a chunk of bluegill.
Wow.
I've used tilapia from the grocery store. Even hot dogs will work, and they're incredible scent feeders, and they will find that. You want a heavier gauge hook, I'll use 40-pound test. But that's the easiest way. If you know they live here and you just want one, get a lawn chair and a stiff catfish rod and just get after it.
On the bottom or under a float, or does it matter?
Either. I've done it both ways. If it's shallow enough, I'll let it sit on the bottom, hang one under a float, put one on the bottom, and kick back. And that's the fastest and most effective way to do it.
Wow.
I bet you in the Bay of Quinte that could open up a whole
Oh
new.
man, we could
trend,
have some
right?
fun. We could
Yeah.
have
Maybe
I-
maybe we should just do underdog fish next year.
40th year we're
Our
celebrating with
40th year we'll do
underdogs.
nothing but underdogs. How's that?
Pete, I'm curious. You talked about him hitting spinner baits. Have you ever seen one come from a distance, like chase it down to eat it, or is it like a surprise bite when it happens most of the time?
That's a great question.
Mine has always been surprised. I've never seen him chase.
I've seen them sit still, and you drop a jig or whatever like that, and just hold
Sure.
it, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, he'll wait, and then just all of a sudden crack it hard.
Well,
but I don't know if I've ever seen him chase or not.
I bring that up because that's just been an observation of mine. Like, even though they are fierce predators, no doubt, I've never seen a bowfin like come from 5 or 10 feet away to eat my frog or a spinnerbait or a fly or any of that. To your point, and I don't know if it's that they don't have as good of eyesight as they do smell. I'm really not sure. But if you want to catch one on an artificial of any kind, you kind of got to bounce it right off their nose.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
think the incidental is, you're out there throwing a spinnerbait for bass, and it just came right across his face right here, and wham, he'll snap it. So that's part of the challenge with artificial and why sight fishing them is so much fun, because that's what you're doing. You are really trying to put that fluke or fly or whatever right off his nose, and he just it's crazy.
You know what used to be full of them? I don't know whether it still is not Muscogee Bay.
Oh, I'll bet you it still
It
is.
was like every...
Because the Sagwin Creek before that is we used to get them in too.
every third or fourth flipping fish
Yeah.
was a bowfin.
Wow.
Yeah, maybe every fifth. But,
Yeah.
largemouth, then boom, scare the hell out of you because you just caught, 2 or 3 3-pounders, and then all of a sudden you got the mother load on, and it ain't that.
And then that thick 5/0 hook is all of a sudden euchred and bent. You got to throw the jig out because this guy just damaged your jig.
To Joe's point, on a flipping jig, which obviously was presented right on top of the
right on
fish,
his nose,
right?
Yeah. And whether you're bait fishing or fly fishing or throwing lures doesn't matter. Like strong hooks are an absolute must. Like saltwater grade hooks are an absolute must.
The biggest you've ever caught?
Bowfin.
I want to say 13 pounds.
Ooh, that's a nice one. That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a biggie. I know that we tried to go to, there's an area north of Kingston here, Cranberry Lake, Dog Lake and that, and there's a kid that had at the marina, and he was always going for the Ontario or world record, and he was getting them in the teens. I know that every spring for sure he was getting them in the teens. But I'm going to give you a scenario that I found a couple of years ago on Bowfin. We have an extended bass season now where we can fish them into the spring in certain areas. We went into one of these back bays that is notoriously good for bass, but it was too early. The water was cold, and this bay was loaded with bowfin in the spring, like loaded. I mean, I've never seen so many bowfin in my life, and a lot of them are laying right in the mud, because we're talking about water temps in the 40s, probably. You know what I mean? And that's situation. We threw our jigs at them and all that, and if you got close to them, it did nothing. You said you hit them on the head. We hit them on the head, and they spook off. So I'm wondering. And I always said, I wonder if those fish would hit a minnow or a live bait under a float right in front of their nose or something. You ever encountered something? Yeah, just right in front of them. Yeah. Have you ever encountered that in the cold water like that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that. It can go either way, right? So if you're sight fishing bowfin, you're either going to put whatever you got right in front of him, and he is just going to zap it, or they're going to spook. I mean, there's no guarantee either way. That sounds to me like those fish were already starting to slide into where they were going to spawn. They're spring spawners.
Yeah.
And, man, catching one here. So here it would be April and May when they're in their spawning colors, and it literally looks like somebody took a green highlighter and painted the inside of their mouth and all their fins. It's wild. It's some of the wildest stuff. But that just sounds to me like they had gotten there and it was just still a little too cold for them to be active.
That's what we
I think that's probably all that was.
So they're using obviously the same areas as largemouth.
Exactly the same.
So they're in before them. So is it a temperature thing? Is there a preferred temperature for sparking that spawning activity?
I'm sure there is, Angelo, and I can't say I know that number anecdotally here. Like I'll start catching them. There's a correlation. Like as soon as I hear reports of American shad getting caught in the river, I'm pretty confident I can go start catching bowfin. So that's going to be late March into early April. And the magic number for shad to bite is 50 degrees. All good things start at 50 degrees.
That's so true.
You
right?
know?
That is so
true.
true.
We should target a bowfin.
I'll take you to that friggin' place. It'll blow your mind.
We went to Cranberry
we did
years
do that,
ago.
yeah.
Didn't do well.
Rideau Breeze Marina. Yeah, no, you got one or two of them. Remember that one you got? It was a great fish. It was a great sequence. We just thought we got to get more of these because it was.
And it never happened.
It didn't happen for us.
We got to go back and check that
But
out.
even here, despite the lack of icing up, I've just been bored in early February or whatever, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy some shrimp and go. Like they had to still be out there somewhere for God's sakes, right? You know what I mean? Till that water hits 50 degrees, I don't get touched.
Isn't that crazy?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Last time we had you on the show, you were also at the time hunting down all kinds of stripers in the Northeast. How's that coming along for you?
Well, I'm getting text messages from all my friends right now as we talk about the mayhem off of our coast. It is prime time here, fully surf, boat, the whole deal. I'm actually headed out in a couple days after we record here. So peak time. It's been all out mayhem. It's been a little windy. Like the nice days to get there have been fewer. maybe than last year. I don't know about you guys. It's been 80 degrees. It's 80 degrees here in November last week.
It's been nuts. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's nice for you, but it's making some wicked winds. So
the deer hunters don't like it either. Our deer hunters here, they hate it, man. It's not doing them any good at all. So
doesn't feel right. Like I'm not supposed to be in a t-shirt on the beach in November, but yeah, we are full bore migration right now. This is the time of year when New Jersey in particular tends to see everybody's stripers. All the northern ones are down, mixing here, and and it's very good.
Question for you: on those days that you can't get a boat out, is it still surf castable? Can you still fish from shore?
Sometimes it's actually better, right? So the way that we set up, especially if you have a hard west wind here, so you got land knocking that wind down as it blows over the ocean. Mm-hmm. So if you're in a boat, yeah, you can hug the beach and it'll be almost flat calm, even if it's blowing 30 miles an hour, right? But if those fish are a mile or two off, you're going to get the crap beat out of you going out there after them.
Right.
But those flat conditions, Bunker, Menhaden, they actually tend to swim into the wind. So you have a west coming over your back on the beach, the Bunker will swim into it, and those hard west wind days actually often put more bait and fish within the surf caster's range.
Huh.
Yeah, it's funny because even surf casting, it's all dependent on food, right? Bait.
Right.
They have to forage on something. And if
has to be food there. Yeah.
It's like anything else. Joe, tell folks what you've been doing. I mean, aside from obviously you've done some incredible productions, Meat Eater notwithstanding, you've done some good work with them. What else do you do? You're chasing fish all the time. But are there any projects that we should be privy to that the audience can tune into you and check you out?
According to my Instagram account, I'm chasing fish all the time. The sad reality is I'm sitting in front of this computer most of the time, but that's you got to maintain perceptions. You know what I'm saying? You got to keep it honest.
So true.
But yeah, Cut&Retie, that's my baby. That's every Friday morning, a new episode of Cut&Retie launches, and I just think what makes that, it is a fishing podcast, but I don't know, I consider myself more of an entertainer than a teacher, so we just have a good time. We got a wide range of people there. Still writing a ton for Field and Stream, Outdoor Life, Angler's Journal, and then over the summer, I actually launched a second bi-weekly podcast. It's on Outdoor Life's network. It's called Quick Strike. And the way that I pitched it, when I worked full-time for magazines, I was always in charge of the fishing section. And that meant putting together a lot of these short, quick hitter how-to pieces. So instead of this elaborate feature, it's just like, the 5 reasons why you should use this lure, or, the 3 most overlooked largemouth lures out there right now. Just very quick hitter to the point pieces. And I pitched that in podcast form. I said, we're going to keep this a half hour, very short, every other week with really good people. And we've done them on how to catch tuna on a party boat. If you've never done that before, here's what to expect. Here's what you need to know. Retro bass lures that are still out there that have fallen out of popular favor and why you should still fish them. Is the fall feed bag for trout a myth? So it's just a quick hitter topic, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So I'm actually juggling 2 podcasts right now.
Okay, that's busy.
You just answered my next question, which was obviously you're on target for that. We're noticing now, we mentioned earlier on, this is our 40th broadcast season that we're about to embark. And so we've been around probably a lot longer than we should have. During that time, we've gone through several generations of audience members, right? We're working with 3 distinct generations of audience members right now. We're constantly asking ourselves how to not drop the ball on any of those generations when we communicate and deliver our messages. It sounds like you're on top of that, because that new bi-weekly product you're putting out almost feels to me like you know that there's a little younger audience out there that's yearning for information and a reason to go out fishing. And I think you're addressing that. And I wanted to ask you, are you constantly trying to evolve, knowing that your audience is, as you're getting older, your audience is getting younger? And how are you speaking to that?
Well, I got to tell you, I'm not really certain that that's true. So something like Quick Strike, I understand the need for how to. People want to learn. They want to learn specific things. I've just always taken slight issue with some of these podcasts that spend 2 hours talking about the wacky rig. Like, there's only so much to say about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I've learned that as a magazine editor. You know, the running joke is if I had more time, I'd make it shorter. Your job is to always do it in as little words as you possibly can and get the point across. I would imagine that content certainly has some appeal to up-and-coming younger anglers. But if you look at Cut&Retie, if you look at my audience, the bulk of them are my age. And I actually very much love that because what I see is when I started the Hook Shots video series, I was in my 20s, no kids, not married yet. And so were my fans. And I almost feel like I have grown, like my fan base, my audience has grown up with me. Now they're all my age and they got a couple of little kids and they're not fishing as much as they used to, which is me. And I talk about that all the time because frankly, I see some of this stuff on YouTube that like the 21 and 22-year-old next kids are making. Dudes, I don't get a lot of it. Like it just, I don't know what the hell you want actually. Like I was watching one the other day and all this kid does is knock on doors, ask permission for private ponds, catch these giant bass. He's got billions of followers. Sometimes he doesn't get permission and does it anyway. And then the video becomes him getting kicked out for trespassing. And I'm just like, I don't.
Wow. What an interesting concept.
If this is what you're into, I don't know how to talk to you guys. You know what I mean? Like I'm just, so I hope there's something there for the next generation. And don't misunderstand. I get plenty of feedback and messages from kids that young who like what I do and follow me. But, if you look at the new generation coming up behind us, like the new ones, I mean, it's just like loud, fast, and that's the whole shtick, like knocking on doors and filming people. And it's like, well, yeah, dude, if you got a private pond on this dude's farm that nobody fishes, how hard is it to catch 7-pound largemouth? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't know. A lot of it I don't identify with anymore.
I think the argument could be made. We even our generation of anglers sometimes did that as well, right? Now, and I don't want to drop names, but let's be honest about it. Our good friend Bill Dance did much similar, right?
Sure.
It's really no different.
No,
There's no different. But Bill made a career out of it, and God bless him.
Still making a career out of it.
Damn,
I watched him the other day.
And Bill is a legend.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was very smart if you look at what he did.
Yeah,
right? 'Cause in that generation, what do people want to see? The fish getting caught. He had the permissions and the things in place to make sure that happened.
Yeah.
I think for me, even when I was much younger and doing hook shots, as a magazine guy and as a writer first and foremost, what always mattered to me was the story. Tell me a story. It could be a bad story where we didn't catch anything, but like tell me an entire story. And I think that with attention spans and the way social media is now, the younger generation doesn't want or appreciate that. So all this kind of, I just sort of look at this like, man, if you put more effort into what you're doing and like crafted a story around this could be really good. But instead it's just like throw it up, more, throw it up, do it again, same thing over and over again. Yeah. And
you get tired, don't you? You get tired of seeing that stuff.
I do.
I know.
I don't really know how to identify with it. I don't know what of my content, because most of my stuff, I don't think you have the attention span to listen to the podcast for 10 full minutes, you know? So I am very comfortable and very happy with a fan base that has grown up with me. I like that. You know, that's very rewarding to me.
Yep. Yeah, well said.
I keep looking down at my notes and I keep looking at this and I'm saying that's got to be a misprint. There's no way I'm going to make a fool of myself. Mahi in New Jersey.
Wait, what? Say that again?
Dean, help me with this. You wrote this stuff. Mahi in New Jersey.
Mahi in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Mahi.
Oh, Mahi.
Yeah.
There's no
Mahi Mahi. Absolutely.
In New Jersey.
Tons of Mahi Mahi. There's Mahi Mahi all the way up to Massachusetts. Absolutely. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah. So Mahi Mahi, I'm sure you guys have seen the video and your listeners have seen at some point the Florida deal where there's a mile of floating sargassum weed down there and all kinds of little bait fish, and that's where you target your Mahi. They love floating structure. We don't have that here, but man, we got miles and miles and miles of lobster pots off of our coast. And the high flyer at the top of the trap floating on the surface with the poly ball is enough. So in the summer, when the warm water comes up from the Gulf Stream, You just go from high flyer to high flyer to high flyer to high flyer, and you cast. No trolling.
Now,
Oh my God, I want to do that.
These are those bright, colorful, beautiful fish that we call dolphin. That's really a dolphin, right?
Yeah, dolphin fish, Mahi Mahi, Dorado. In Southern California, on the West Coast, they call them Dorado. All the same thing. Yeah.
No kidding.
Man. That's like that's like we do the smallmouth. We find the buoys that the sailboat boys.
Well,
I'll
tell you, if you guys are doing your road trip, right? Like, please let me help you with that one, because you could bring your bass tackle. You could bring your smallmouth box and catch 40-inch mahis with. I mean, that's the whole fun of it, is you can chase them, right? You're not trolling. You're just hopping. So that's the whole game. I go down there with stuff I use for largemouth bass.
When is that? When's the window? What's the window?
Late July through mid-September. It'll go into October, but once you get into September, you guys understand, like, your windows start getting a little smaller with the transition. Mm-hmm. But yeah, August and early September. And sometimes this happens 12 miles out. Sometimes you run 30 miles. Sometimes they're close. If we get the blue water moving in, they're 12 miles off the beach.
Wow.
That's crazy.
How cool would that be? And they're great eating, obviously, for folks listening to this.
Yeah, not only are they great eating, but they're one of the fastest growing fish in the ocean, so you can fill the box and not feel guilty. I mean, it's one of the most sustainable fish on the entire planet because they spawn so frequently and grow so quick. Like, the world record dolphin, I want to say, was 87 pounds, and I think they said that was 5 years old. And that's like a year older than it should have been. Like 4 years is the lifespan. So if you want a meat trip, mahi, you can load the box with mahi and not feel guilty about it.
How far north will they roam?
I mean, I know guys that catch them off of Cape Cod very frequently. Now, that's mostly in the canyon water, the blue water. Same thing in the summertime, but yeah, it's not uncommon to catch them in the canyons off Cape Cod. Further north than that, I'm not sure, but Cape Cod, definitely, they're there.
That's insane, eh?
Mark it down, buddy. Mark her
down. Cape Cod. Joe Cermele, Mahi Mahi.
Just before we let you go, Joe, what would give folks an idea of where they can get a hold of you and how they can contact you, how they can follow you, how they can be with you?
Sure, and it's just, so people know a big part of what I do and what I believe in is communicating. So you reach out to me, you will hear back. I love building community around what I do. So Cut&Retie is on pretty much every podcast platform that exists, so whichever one you like, and that drops every Friday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern. I'm Joe Cermele 138 on Instagram. You can follow me there, or cutandretie@gmail.com if you want to shoot me an email.
Sounds fantastic, my friend, and we must make it happen this coming season. All right,
let's do it.
Enough of the promising. Let's.
I would love to take you guys mahi fishing, and that time of year we can do mahi and snakeheads in the same trip, and then we'll sit in my studio and record.
And then we'll come up and do sheephead up here. We'll do drum up here.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
We'll just move in together for an entire season and travel as a pack.
Sounds like fun.
Travel as a pack, and we'll fish for underdogs.
100%.
All right, brother. Thank you very much. You take care of yourself.
Anytime, guys. Thank you.
See you, Joe.
All right, it's a date. Mark it down. It's got to happen this year, buddy. Come on.
Joe Cermele.
You and me, we're the worst at that.
Oh, I know.
We got to do it. We got to do it, and then we forget about it. That's the problem with getting to be our age, right?
You got that right, mister.
Anyways, wonderful gentleman, as you could tell. Very enthusiastic angler, great communicator. That's why he's been working for just about every major brand in the fishing industry as far as magazines and podcasts.
And he knows his coarse fish, too, obviously, much better than we do. He's giving it open our eyes up quite nicely here. So
there's a whole new future for us. You know?
Yeah. We're coarse old guys now anyways, right?
Underdogs.
They've always talked about my language being coarse.
That's
all
a whole
the time,
TV series, Underdogs.
Hey, could I swear? If it's coarse fish, could I swear in the show too? Coarse language?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to run it by the producers and see what they say.
Wow. Would the real Pete Bowman come out for that series?
Oh, yeah. That'd be fun. His name is Joe Cermele, and check him out. You will not be disappointed if you haven't already done so. Yeah. I want to remind folks about the wonderful contest that's ongoing as we speak. J&B Cycle and Marine is giving away a Mercury 9.9 outboard motor, 4-stroke, with all the toys and bells and whistles that come with those wonderful products.
Yeah, baby. That's on until Christmas, that contest.
Made available, once again, J&B Cycle and Marine, Ontario's largest Princecraft and Mercury dealer. I did not know that. Princecraft Mercury, the combo. dealer in the province of Ontario. You can go up there. One store's in Timmins, there's one in Sudbury, but you can go online and check all this wonderful stuff out. Complete outboard motor packages, boat, motor, trailer for anglers, for family, for you name it. If you need a boat, motor, and trailer, J&B Cycle and Marine is your destination without question.
The website is jbcycle.com.
Without the end that I always screw on.
That's okay.
Keep an eye on fishingcanada.com. If you're not entered in the contest, by all means get there. And we will be giving you a special right now opportunity to get a leg up on the competition to win that 9.9 by getting 10 free, quick, down and dirty entries into the contest. The code for this wonderful opportunity is Bowfin, all capital letters, Bowfin. That's Bowfin. Just go to the contest section on fishingcanada.com, enter it in the bonus code area, and you will receive 10 free entries immediately.
Give me a hell yeah!
Hell yeah. I thought you were going to say Bowman. It's close.
Well, you might as well be. You know. And if you haven't entered it yet, this is a perfect opportunity, like I said, to get a jump on your fellow competitors on the contest section.
Yeah, you want to get the best crack out of Mercury Motor that you could. Boy, that's a great prize. Woo!
That's it. We can't do any more than that. That was a great episode. Love Joe, and we gotta do some work with him this coming year. On behalf of the entire crew here, Boba, Nick, Dean, Mr. Bowman, I'm Angelo. Thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time. This episode of Outdoor Journal Radio has been brought to you in part by the Invasive Species Centre, protecting Canada's land and water from invasive species. Freedom Cruise Canada, rent the boat, own the memories. J&B Cycle and Marine, your home for all things power sports, boats, and equipment. And Sail, the ultimate destination for your outdoor adventures.